Vecna, the main antagonist of Stranger Things Season 4, is one of the most intriguing and complex villains ever introduced in the series. What makes him so compelling is not only the horror he brings to Hawkins but the strange, unsettling humanity hidden beneath his monstrous form. Vecna is not simply another creature from the Upside Down, he is a creation shaped by trauma, isolation, curiosity, and a mind that refused to fit within the limits of the world around him. Understanding Vecna means understanding how a single human life can twist and transform until it becomes something unrecognizable and frighteningly powerful. To begin, Vecna's story does not start in darkness. It begins in an ordinary American household in the 1950s with a boy named Henry Creel. At first glance, Henry appears quiet, intelligent, and unusual in a way that many gifted children are. But beneath his calm exterior, something deeper is unfolding. Henry is not like other children, not emotionally, not intellectually, and certainly not physically. He discovers early on that he possesses abilities that allow him to connect with minds, manipulate the physical world, and sense life and death in a way that no one else can. These abilities do not feel supernatural to him, they feel natural, almost like a forgotten part of himself waking up. Yet Henry's powers come with a cost. The more he explores them, the more he learns about the people around him, especially their flaws. He sees hypocrisy, cruelty, and fear everywhere. The world, to him, is not a place worth fitting into but a place that needs to be reshaped. This belief becomes the seed of everything he will eventually become. What starts as a child's quiet discomfort turns into a philosophy: humanity is sick, and only he understands what it should become. This early mindset leads Henry to commit his first horrifying act, the murder of his family. But this moment is more than a crime, it's a transformation. It is the first time Henry sees death not as an end but as a kind of cleansing. He believes he is freeing people from a broken system. In that moment, he begins to shed the last pieces of ordinary childhood and step towards something far more dangerous. After the murders, Henry is taken to Hawkins' lab, where Dr. Martin Brenner studies his abilities. Instead of being punished, he becomes an experiment. Brenner sees Henry not as a child but as a tool, a weapon. And so Henry loses his name, his identity, and his freedom. He becomes 001, the very first test subject in what will become years of experiments on children with abilities. This part of Vecna's story is crucial because it shows that monsters are rarely born, they are shaped. Henry's bitterness is fed by isolation. His resentment is sharpened by years of control. While the other children form bonds with each other, he stands apart, growing colder and more convinced that he sees the world more clearly than anyone else. His genius is twisted by loneliness. His power is sharpened by pain. And then comes the moment that seals his fate, 11. When 11 enters the lab, Henry sees something new, a child whose power could equal or even surpass his own. He forms a connection with her, not out of friendship or affection, but because he recognizes in her the potential to help him escape the lab. In his own controlled, manipulative way, Henry tries to shape her into an ally, but what he does not expect is that 11 will find strength not in hatred or superiority, but in emotion, in connection, and in the very humanity he rejected. This leads to their legendary confrontation. When 11 refuses to join Henry in his twisted vision, he attacks. But she overpowers him, unleashing a force so intense that it tears open a rift between worlds. This is the moment when Henry Creel, the brilliant and broken boy, is cast into the Upside Down, not dead, but fundamentally changed. In the Upside Down, Henry undergoes a horrific transformation. The environment scars him, reshapes him, and fuses with his powers. He becomes something beyond human, a creature connected to the very energy of the Upside Down itself. This is the birth of Vecna. What makes Vecna especially terrifying is not just his physical appearance, the exposed muscles, the vines that thread through his body, the empty, piercing eyes, but the intelligence behind those features. Vecna is not a mindless monster. He is a strategist, a thinker, and a creator. He builds armies, shapes the environment, and uses telepathic abilities to manipulate minds. He understands that the human world can be invaded not only physically but psychologically. His victims are carefully chosen, pierced through their guilt and trauma, and broken down until they are ripe for destruction. Vecna's method of killing is more than violence, it is psychological warfare. He invades minds, preys on vulnerabilities, and exposes the deepest fears of his victims. Unlike the Demogorgons or the Mind Flayer, Vecna kills with purpose. He does not want chaos alone, he wants transformation. His goal is not to destroy Hawkins but to remake it in his own image. He believes that the pain he inflicts is a path to clarity, a step toward a world purified of weakness. Yet even as Vecna grows stronger, one thing remains constant, his obsession with 11. She represents everything he once was and everything he cannot control. She is living proof that power can coexist with empathy, that the human qualities he rejected can be a source of strength. Their conflict becomes symbolic, two children shaped by trauma, pushed into different paths, representing two visions of the future. One wants domination, the other wants healing. One uses fear, the other uses connection. Vecna's story, when examined closely, is not simply the rise of a villain but the unraveling of a human soul. He shows us how isolation creates monsters, how power without empathy becomes a weapon, and how trauma can twist a person into something unrecognizable. He also shows us the fragility of morality when combined with extraordinary ability. Henry Creel believed he could reshape the world, but what he actually did was reveal the cost of believing you are above it. And yet, beneath his monstrous appearance, Vecna remains disturbingly human. His motives, however twisted, come from familiar places, desperation, loneliness, and a desire to belong somewhere, even if that somewhere is a world he must create himself. That is what makes Vecna one of the most unforgettable villains in modern storytelling. He is not terrifying because he is inhuman. He is terrifying because he is human taken to the furthest, darkest extreme. He forces us to grapple with uncomfortable questions. How much of who we become is shaped by our environment? How much of a monster is made, not born? And what happens when brilliance loses its compassion? Vecna is more than the final villain of Stranger Things. He is a cautionary tale. A mirror of what a person becomes when they abandon their humanity, a reminder that power means nothing without connection. And a chilling example of how a single life, warped by pain and sharpened by ambition, can become the kind of evil that haunts both worlds.